Hello everyone, welcome to our final prequels episode of Star Wars as we discuss Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I'm Zenger and I have the higher ground.
I'm Rob and you underestimate my power.
I'm Ellie. Crush them, make them suffer. What? I had to bring Grievous up in here.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Oh, you could
be. Make them suffer. Is that better?
There. Okay. You could just coughed.
I'm sorry.
All right, so we have moved into the final true episode of the prequel trilogy. I guess you kind of can count Rogue One as a prequel, but this is the final episode 3 of the prequel trilogy, Revenge of the Sith, which I can definitely say I think we are all very excited to discuss this one.
Yes.
So we're going to start with something that we introduced last time, our favorite 3 moments from this movie. Mm-hmm. And Rob has used the Force to be able to has manipulated the Force to be able to be the first person to do this. So, Rob, you're up.
All right, go me. Well, let's start off with the most obvious, everyone's favorite part. Lightsaber fight over hot lava.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like everyone's inner 4th grader's dream put to cinema. Like, how do you make something more epic? You have it on, like, a giant piece of something going down a lava waterfall with, like, epic John Williams music playing in the back. Definitely one of the best lightsaber fights we see in Star Wars.
So that's one.
Yeah. Over the top, but one of the best.
And I think that one's probably going to be mentioned through the other 2 of us. So, anyways, continue.
2... Order 66. I remember like seeing the movie in the theater for the first time, and it was kind of like a pretty dark moment in Star Wars to see the Jedi get killed off and how they get killed off. Younglings. Really, like one of the best moments in that whole segment is just seeing Anakin like march an army of stormtroopers into the Jedi Temple.
Yes.
And of course the finale where they try to kill Yoda, and Yoda decapitates 3 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
So that whole segment of the movie. Number 3, kind of an odd choice, but the scene in the movie right after Anakin tells Mace Windu that Palpatine's evil, and Palpatine takes the Jedi to capture him or pursue him. And
confront him,
yeah, thank you. And Anakin's just kind of like sitting in the room, like staring out the window, and he's remembering his dream and remembering.
Isn't Padme looking like out a window at him too, or just
yeah? There's kind of like
there's a lot of window staring in this movie. I feel,
but you kind of get like there's a process going on in Anakin's head, and he's trying to put everything together, and ultimately it's kind of the moment that decides that the next trilogy is happening, because if Anakin just stays in the room,
everything's good.
Probably Palpatine would have killed all the Jedi, but anyway, it was kind of the moment he turns to the dark side.
Yeah,
I'd say. You could argue, like, when he cuts off Mace Windu's hand is his real turn, but the moment that he's just kind of staring off is sort of the moment where he considers being a Sith.
All right, Ellie.
Yes.
Do you want to go next?
Sure.
All right.
Well, I second the lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
All right.
Definitely pretty awesome. The end of the movie where she's in labor and he's transforming, so to speak.
Being transformed into Vader.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool. And then, of course, when Darth Vader takes his first breath, just seeing his you can see the breath come out, and it's
I pointed that out.
Yes, it's quite cool. So those are probably my 3 favorite parts of the movie.
All right, I guess for mine, I'm going to go with, well, obviously I'm going to go with the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. I thought that was, I mean, we've already discussed it, so I'm not going to, and we're going to discuss it more later.
We will discuss it more later.
Yeah, so that fight I think was amazing. And I guess my next one after that would probably be the introduction of Grievous and just the Grievous and Obi-Wan fight. But that honestly, here's a little, I guess, hint. I'm getting really bad at revealing talking about the next episode we're gonna do. It was because of the Clone Wars cartoon that they did that was done by Dexter's Laboratory that I was very interested in seeing Grievous on the big screen because they had revealed him earlier in that series. So it was really cool to finally see him on the big screen. I just thought he was an interesting character, personally.
He is an interesting character.
And that really is kind of underutilized, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my number 3, I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place with these, would be the space battle at the beginning. The battle over Coruscant was was a cool space battle that is... The prequels have the original trilogy has their merits for space battles. Mm-hmm. This was, I think, a great space battle in the prequels. And there is another space battle that I will discuss when that episode comes up that I think is set the bar very high for Star Wars battles. So this was one up until recently was one of my wow moments.
Okay.
Now, of course, the Return of the Jedi one is amazing for the time it was made.
Right.
In the time it was made. But those would be my 3. So that's our 3 top moments from this one, from episode 3. So I guess we're going to move into our quick overview of the plot. And for this, I decided to actually reach out to a fellow podcaster, Chet, from the Down the Hall podcast. And me and him have been messaging back and forth. And our challenge was to describe the plot to episode 3 within the amount of a Twitter message. So we could not use, it had to be a tweet-sized description of the movie.
Right.
So... Ellie, if you would, I will let you read his first one.
Okay. All the deaths, births, and turns to the dark side that were already spoiled for us in 4 to 6.
Breaking news. Lord Vader found burnt limbless on a lava planet. Witnesses quoted saying he did not have the higher ground. More at 11.
Nice. Chancellor Palpatine's new look. Before and after photos. Click to view the slideshow.
Newly appointed emperor takes on new apprentice. Last apprentice was de-handed. Maybe this one will have a hand up on his predecessor.
Oh my god. General Kenobi seen leaving the hospital with baby. Declined to make any absolute statements.
Because, only Sith.
Dealing absolutes.
All right, so that was our Twitter match of us discussing stuff. Oh, Rob's got one too.
Yeah, one last one. Essentially, the outcome of this movie and every fight is apparently determined by higher ground.
Yeah. It actually, except for Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Grievous, he had the lower ground and shot him. Wow. So apparently if you have a blaster, you can overcome the higher ground.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, once again, I'd like to thank Chet from Down the Hall podcast. Check them out. Like I said, it was me and him kind of were having a little, I guess, joke off of, who could, tweet the most random thing about the Star Wars Episode 3 plot. So I guess we can go to impact on the series and impact on the culture of Star Wars now. And to be honest, I think that I don't think this as in you can only watch this one and get the entire prequels. But if there is a important episode to the prequels, this is it. If you only were able to watch one episode of the prequels, if someone said you can only watch one episode of the prequels to understand the entire plot, this one of course has to be it because it's last, but it has the most reveals of everything in it. And I think, I thought you were going to say something, Allie.
Oh no, I was just moving closer.
All right, you're getting ready to jump. You're
I'm gonna pounce.
I have the higher ground though, so
Barely.
barely. But I think one of the biggest impacts, I guess, in my mind, and I've kind of gone through the whole prequel trilogy, kind of looking at it as everyone complains about the political side of it, and I've kind of been trying to watch it with the political side of it in mind.
The failing political side.
Yes, and this shows the complete failing that it is pointed out by the Jedi that Palpatine has not given up power. He keeps accruing more and more and more power, and he has overstayed his term limits. They've destroyed term limits to allow him to continue to rule, and it's making the Jedi nervous. Well, I think that this movie shows the true power of the Sith, to be honest with you, because it shows how manipulative he was to not only the Jedi Council, to the Senate, to everyone involved. Palpatine is, I think, one of the greatest Sith Lords when it comes to manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
Because he manipulated one of the greatest Jedis. He was able to deceive the entire Jedi Council, manipulate the entire Senate, and just it just amazed me, like, looking at it from that angle of what he was able to accomplish, and basically turn a plot to bring back justice and what was right into a plot to destroy him, and that it was that the Jedi were attacking the democracy, and that the only way to stop this was to create an empire so that he could rule and protect them from this happening again.
I mean, can we be honest, though? Anakin's pretty manipulative. I mean, pretty easy to manipulate.
Yes, he was in this.
I mean, definitely a flawed character.
I agree with both of you, and I have some like specific points, but I'll bring that up later in open discussion.
I mean, if you want to bring him up now, it's no problem.
Well, really, like, in this movie, after rewatching it again, I really think the Jedi almost destroy themselves.
I can see that, and Ellie actually has a good point on that. I know she mentioned.
To put it in Star Wars terms, they underestimate the power of the dark side. They, like, when you watch the movie, there's so many points where you just see the Jedi, Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, all of them making bad decisions. For one, I always thought, like, how they dealt with Anakin was not smart. Like,
well, but he's the chosen one, according to the prophecy.
He's the chosen one, but he has Palpatine, who it's clearly shown Anakin looks up to this figure and they both think highly. They both have a respect for each other. And Palpatine wants to put Anakin on the council and represent him in the Jedi Council,
which hasn't been done before. So it's the Emperor once again. Well, it's Palpatine once again getting involved and using his power to manipulate, to get involved in something and create those seeds of distrust and those that questioning of, you know, what's right and what's wrong by Anakin later.
It really wasn't very smart of the Jedi to ask Anakin to spy on someone, especially
someone that they know that he trusted or that trusted him so much.
And then at the same time, there's the whole aspect of their not granting him the title of master. So really, like, the Jedi Council is kind of making Anakin feel disrespected while asking him to spy on someone who he does have respect for, and it's just not a very smart move. On top of that, another thing, Palpatine's able to foresee Anakin's visions, or maybe he gave them to him. That's another thing in open discussion, but so pretty much Anakin goes to Yoda and says,
help me, I've been having these visions, what can I do? And Yoda's basically like...
Yoda's like, don't get too attached to things. Then
they're just visions.
Then he goes to Palpatine, and Palpatine's like, let me tell you about a guy named Darth Plagueis. He can stop people from dying.
Yeah,
By the way, I know the Jedi Council asked you to spy on me.
By the way, I also know about the dark side. By the way, I can also teach you how to save your wife and child.
Yeah, just
by
like,
the way, they're going to betray me. It's just he manipulated so much in that situation.
He called out the entire Jedi Council, and he told Anakin what he wanted to hear, whereas Yoda told him the worst thing, basically just don't care. I mean,
ignoring the fact that he also manipulated the entire war, considering the fact that he was playing both sides of that war successfully, mind you. He was the chancellor on one side, and on the other side, he was helping lead the separatists. So he was basically able to manipulate certain people and certain armies to be in certain places to better him and to better whichever side he felt needed to win at the time, which, of course, in the end was obviously going to be the Republic / the Empire, because that was the best thing for him. Something else that I'm sure we'll bring it up in a minute, but another thing that I think is a huge impact on the series, this might fit more into inspiration. And actually, no, this fits here into impact. Failure and
fatal misunderstanding.
And inability to basically fail. I want to say failure. Anakin feels he has a failure as a Jedi. He's going to fail as a Jedi to protect his family again. He failed previously. His powers were useless to help him when he came to his mother. Now he's having similar visions, which, I mean, as Rob, I think, kind of pointed out and hinted at, these visions could be being done by Sidious himself, could be implanting these visions. For all we know, it's never really pointed out in the movie, but I mean, he's having these visions of his wife dying, his kid not surviving, so that causes him to not trust his own abilities and rely on somebody else like Sidious to help him grow in what he thinks grow and become more powerful, and also that the Republic that he's been sworn to protect is failing as well. Democracy failed by allowing this to happen. The Jedi failed by allowing this to happen. This movie is kind of surrounded by a failure of everything for anyone to act when they needed to. And then, of course, for some people to act when they didn't need to. Rest in peace, Mace Windu's hand.
True.
Yeah.
Well, but can we go back a little bit to the visions, though?
Oh, yeah. We're like I said, apparently we're just this movie, I think, has a huge impact in my mind on what takes place later.
You know how we've discussed before about the point of view?
Yep.
This is true from a certain point of view.
Right.
Yes.
So
I think that should be the theme of this entire podcast.
And the thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, though, is just the whole underlying point of view. When Anakin has these visions, he's imagining that she's dying because of complications with childbirth. But
yes.
Couldn't it really be that he made her die? She died of a broken heart.
Yes.
And if he wouldn't have
done anything, if he had done nothing,
so focused on becoming stronger and stronger and stronger so that he could save her from death. But if he would have they would have just lived their normal life and did what they needed to do, then it's very possible that she may not have died, because I really honestly, when Obi-Wan, I think it's Obi-Wan that makes the comment about, maybe it isn't, it's somebody there during the birth, where
it's
they
the
say
robot. I think it's
she's lost the will to live.
I think it's one of the nurse robots.
One of the droids
one of the
hospital.
One of the droids that's not trying to shoot Jedi.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is the fact that I think it's awfully funny that he has this drive to save her from death, because he thinks she's going to be dying because of childbirth. But when you finish the movie, you realize, she probably died because of, like I said, because of a broken heart. And he's kind of responsible for this. If he wouldn't have done all the stuff that he did, then she may not have even, had that happen.
So a quick impact on the series thing that I'm going to mention now before we get too far, and I don't think that this fits into open discussion. Grievous. I'm just going to mention... You can do that every time. So
it's kind of addictive.
I just now got the joke.
Welcome to the party, Rob.
All right.
So Grievous, he's hard to talk about when it comes to this because there's not very much explained within the movie about him. Mm-hmm. There's tons of stuff explained in the expanded universe and TV shows.
Right.
But there's not much explained in this, so I'm going to have to slightly pull from that. And I'm going to say slightly because it is still stuff that is referred to in the movies vaguely. One, he's not a droid. He is technically a cyborg of sorts that's on a sort of life support system, which is apparently supposed to be the precursor to what kept Vader alive, allegedly. Here's the other thing. He hates being referred to as a droid. He hates it. It is like the bane of his existence to be referred to as a droid. And I just thought that was a very interesting thing that he was leading a droid army. He seemed like a very sniveling individual that was an opportunist in the movie. When we have our discussion on the expanded universe, I'll get into Grievous, I think, a little bit more deeper. But for now, I'm just saying he was an interesting character that I feel was underutilized in this movie. And was just sort of another of the rotating villains and just, I think, need to be there. Because Dooku, I feel like we're not going to even mention the Dooku fight at the beginning of the movie, which I think we should mention because that actually has an impact on the movie itself. Because when we were watching it, Ellie, I pointed this out to you, the speech that is given during that is the exact same speech that is given by Mace Windu to Anakin again. That he's too dangerous to be kept alive. That, all this stuff that was the same thing that Palpatine was telling Anakin to kill him. So it's just kind of interesting, the dichotomy there of the same scene, but kind of the roles were flipped. And then, of course, someone yells no, and lightning and unlimited power, and a hand flies.
No, I can't do it. Go ahead,
no. You have lost. Unlimited power. Yes. I'm sure that's going to register terribly. This is great podcasting. All right, so I just wanted to throw that out there because I felt like we're not going to really discuss the beginning of the movie because
I was probably going to make some.
Okay, cool. I just thought that was interesting at the end of that duel how similar it was to the end of the Mace Windu Sidious duel. I guess we can move on real quick because I feel like light discussion is going to take a lot more of time in this one, and I'm sure Ellie has some pretty cool inspirations because she always seems to walk up and knock these out of the park.
That's too much pressure.
Too much pressure?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we doing inspirations?
Yeah, now? We're moving on because I feel like light discussion's gonna kind of as it always does impact more than.
Okay.
Of it.
Well, I do have some fun ones.
All right, cool.
So, just some of the more artistic part, the filming part. I'm sure a lot of people know, but I thought it was really cool that when they were filming at Mount Etna in Italy, it was actually erupting. The volcano was erupting, and that's where they got a lot of the footage for Mustafar.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool that clearly it has CG and that sort of thing, but some of the lava, some of the running lava and some of that is actually was live erupting footage from Mount Etna in Italy. And also for Kashyyyk, the environment was actually inspired by the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Are we actually going to talk about that, like, seriously in this entire endeavor, or no?
What? You got to bring up the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Thank goodness is it considered canon?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
We should find out.
During the Wood Order podcast, we mentioned the anti-smoking commercial with C-3PO and R2-D2, so we might as well mention the Christmas special.
Ugh.
We can bring it up in either the Legends discussion,
which will be in May,
or
the canon discussion, which
Correct.
will be, I can't remember the month off the top of my head, some other time.
Let's not math it up right now.
Yes.
But a lot of the mountains and everything from Kashyyyk were filmed in Phuket, Thailand.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. So that's a few right now. If you have any, I'm not sure if you do or not.
Well, do you have the cameo ones in this for this one?
I do not. I figured that you would want to do that.
All right. So an interesting cameo that is in the movie is during the opera scene, or I guess the Darth Plagueis explanation scene. If you look off to the side, you can actually see two people standing there, and it is actually George Lucas and his daughter.
I have another one for you then.
All right.
Speaking of cameos, Jet Lucas is actually in the film.
Keeping it in the family with these
Yes,
cameos.
Exactly. He is Lucas's son. Too many S's, I think. Lucas's son. There we go. He is the youngling Jedi that's running out of the Jedi Temple toward
Bail Organa.
Bail Organa's speeder. Yep. And so it's kind of weird and ironic that he killed his son in the movie, but he is in there. Yeah.
Hey, he puts up a good fight, though. I think he takes out
does.
like 3 or 4.
I think a couple, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Good.
there's mine. Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you,
Thanks.
Jet.
Woo!
So I guess we're gonna move. You got any more for inspirations, or? I mean, obviously, Star Wars previous stuff kind of carries over to here. Obvious inspirations from, of course, World War II,
Right.
Civil War, stuff like that. So obviously those are in there, which we have covered in previous ones. But I think we're gonna get to the meat of this discussion. Oh wait, you got one, Rob?
Not really. I don't know if it was in episode 2 or episode 3, but someone pointed out, like in the giant room with Palpatine talking, in one of the little booth things, you can see E.T. creatures.
Oh, that's in one of the Senate.
Oh.
It's not episode 3. It's episode 1 or 2.
Okay.
Pretty
You-
sure
you-
it's
you
2
can-
then.
You can see ET like aliens in one of the little Senate things, the little hover Senate fly things.
Just a fun
Gotcha.
little Easter egg.
Yeah, I think I want to say it's 1. I know it's in one of the first 2. I know it's not 3 though.
Let us know in the comments.
Thanks, Rob, or tweet at us. All right, so I guess moving on to the final battle. Well, not the final battle, but I guess the big battle of this whole thing. The open discussion, which I'm pretty sure we're about to let the floodgates loose on everything, on all of our feelings and fears and other stuff that
I've
Jedis
got
aren't
a
supposed to.
pretty serious one.
All right, Ellie, you can step up to the plate first. And
Thanks. Why the crap don't the Wookiees have subtitles?
there was no one to translate this time. It's
I'm
great
just
when
saying-
Han's there, who
I'm
can be
just
like, "What do you
saying.
mean?" Because what does Han do every time Chewbacca says something? His response is, "What do you mean this isn't this?" Or "What are you talking?" Like he's always
Or
just
sometimes you can just like put together what Chewbacca is saying.
yeah.
Kind
Well,
of like when your cat meows at you and you just you
let's
get
go
it.
back to Order 66.
All right.
So when we are watching the movie and there's the Order 66,
Execute
and then,
Order 66. I don't know why we keep trying to do that impression.
I don't know.
Okay,
But-
moving on.
When they're, Yoda's around and then they're back at Kashyyyk and there's the scene with the 2 Wookiees standing there. What the crap are they saying? They just showed them and they're like talking to each other and I want to know what they're saying. Why are there not subtitles?
I just kind of was like, Yoda's leaving, and I'm sad by this. I'm
Well,
sad
here's
too. I like Yoda.
Okay, interesting thing.
I'm just saying.
Interesting thing, real quick. Yoda just lopped off 2 of the heads of the stormtroopers that they're fighting alongside. And they're just cool with him doing that. Don't really question it. He doesn't really explain what's happening to them, and they just kind of run off.
Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Good point. Maybe it is. Can Yoda understand Wookiee? Oh, wait, he can, because he says he has a good relationship with the Wookiees earlier in the movie.
Well, I'm glad that Yoda does.
Apparently. Yoda, Han, and C-3PO, I guess, can understand him. So...
Right. So sorry,
not?
that was my first question.
All right, cool. So that's open discussion has begun. I feel like Rob is going to jump out of his chair and throw some Senate chairs at me.
Oh.
I'm just gonna keep making references to.
I think I know what you're referring to, and one thing that really has bugged me about this movie ever since the first time I saw it is, why does Yoda stop fighting? Like,
he doesn't really lose all out. I mean, he gets knocked down.
Like, it's a good solid fight, but then, like, he gets his lightsaber blown away, and then they kind of, like, Palpatine tries to use the Force Lightning, and Yoda, they both blast off the same thing. Palpatine just has something to grab onto, and Yoda doesn't. And then Yoda just walks away. I've never understood why Yoda didn't just, like, keep fighting.
Maybe.
And can we talk about how he started the fight with that awesome quote he said?
Oh, yeah.
He said, "If so powerful you are, why leave?"
Oh, yeah.
He takes out the two guards, just walks into the room.
That scene, hands down. Okay, we've talked about the Yoda fight in the previous one. This one, hands down, from beginning to end. Not saying the other one was bad.
He
in
just
episode
entered
2,
this
but
room
that one,
and was like, boom.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the aspects of that fight. Don't know why it wasn't on my top 3, though. It kind of was happening at the same time
because
as
the way he punked out.
Well, it wasn't on my top 3 for 2 reasons. One, it's going on at the same time as the Anakin Obi-Wan
so it's kind
fight.
of balled into each other.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me before I saw this movie, what would you rather see, Anakin and Obi-Wan or Yoda versus the Empire? I would have said Yoda versus the Empire, but
Emperor.
Anakin,
the whole Empire.
Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight is a lot more emotional and kind of a lot more fun to watch, really, just because of the lava and acrobatics and silly things they're doing during the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like, in all honesty, like, the whole boring part of the climax is when it switches to Yoda and
actually,
Palpatine.
as epic as that fight is by comparison to the one on Mustafar, it would be the boring one of the two.
Mustafar is just a lot more, like, emotionally impacted.
In this movie, I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct on this, features the most lightsaber fights in the Star Wars saga. As of yet, it is the most, if I'm correct, because you've got the fight with Dooku.
Yeah.
You got that fight. Oh, I forgot. I got the interesting fact. You got that fight. You've got, I guess you could include Anakin versus the Jedi Temple, because there is.
Oh, that's just wrong.
I didn't say the younglings. They show a video of him fighting somebody. I don't know if it's younglings. There's the massacre of Sidious versus Mace Windu and the people he brought. Rest in peace, Kid Fisto.
But
I mean, Kid Fisto, I will give him credit. He was the last to go down besides Mace. And then you had the Mace Windu versus Sidious fight. After that was the... I don't know. Would you call it a fight if it's a massacre of Anakin just chopping through the Separatists?
It's pretty awesome.
You also have Grievous versus Obi-Wan. Then you have Yoda and Obi-Wan versus Stormtroopers. Then you have Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Sidious versus
Palpatine.
Yoda. Sidious versus Yoda.
Second reason for that not being in my top 3 is because Yoda just walks away at the end.
Just saying, do you think maybe Yoda realized this was not his battle to win, or that maybe he couldn't win? Maybe he deep down was like, I can't win this. The dark side's too strong right now. The light side, maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not giving a guaranteed answer here. That like I have some fact to pull up that proves it.
He talks about having to go into exile now.
Yeah, because he realized he was not the one to finish this fight, maybe.
Well, I mean, if he couldn't beat him, I can kind of understand that. But I mean, when the whole galaxy's been overthrown, I kind of feel like that's a reason to jump back into the fight, not just, he has a higher ground, so I better leave.
And can we talk about the Obi-Wan and Vader's fight?
Hold on. Okay. Let me get my one thing out real quick that I had remembered while I was talking about this. It goes back to Grievous, because apparently I'm just a fan of Grievous in this movie, for the short time he's in it. There is a line in there that's very interesting when Anakin and Grievous meet, where he mentions, where they kind of have a little back and forth, where Anakin says, "I thought someone would be of your stature would be older."
Yes.
Is what Grievous says to Anakin. Anakin
Correct.
responds with, "I always thought you'd be taller."
Right.
This single line created a, how do you say, a paradox within the Clone Wars TV series. This is the newer, more recent animated one, the digitally animated one. Grievous and Anakin could never meet in that series at all. They could never be in the room together because of that one line. Every other piece of continuity can be ignored, but that one line said in Episode 3 had to go on for several seasons of having those characters never meet. All right, so that was kind of my, like a little fun fact that I had known about from the Clone Wars series. So that, I just wanted to throw that out there while it was on my mind. But yes, you wanted to talk about the...
Yes.
Are you sure you want to do that yet, or do you want to save that for the end?
Why would I save it for the end?
Let's talk about it.
We're in the open discussion.
Yes. Well, I'm at the end of open discussion, but...
So, I think it's pretty awesome that pretty much throughout the prequels, Obi-Wan and Anakin / Vader
Dun dun dun.
did most of their own stunts as far as with the lightsabers and the fighting and that sort of thing. And actually for the the main one at Mustafar in Episode 3, you know how insanely fast it is?
Yeah.
I mean, that pretty much was
So
real
that
time.
one scene in the control room where they're like...
And
I love my sound effects.
They were pretty not on point. And but anyway,
My sound effects, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, making sure.
Yes. But they actually trained and practiced for over 2 months with like fitness and fencing to get ready to do that fight. And I thought that was really impressive.
That's
really
pretty cool. That's actually
Yeah.
really cool.
There were a few scenes, it said, that like they had to take a screen out at a time just to make it a little bit more impactful. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it was their real time.
Cool. I mean, that's a very epic fight. I mean, I think we've already beaten a dead horse on how that fight ends.
Right.
Something to do with someone's on an elevated surface over someone else.
What? Higher ground?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. But that fight was, I mean, very iconic, and it's just it set a huge tone, and it really, I think that the acting in Star Wars is questionable at times. I think I can say that without getting too much hate. But the Obi-Wan scene at the end there, like, that felt painful.
Oh, yeah.
Just every aspect. I mean, aside from you're watching somebody get caught on fire and sitting there, multiple limbs cut off, it truly felt like like there was a true failure there that he was watching everything he stood for die by having to take down Anakin.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even bring himself to finish him off either. Like, I mean, he left assuming that he would probably die, but
Right.
but I mean, he couldn't go and finish him off in that moment. I mean, maybe that was him. If he had done that, he would have accepted into the dark side for it. But I mean, he
probably just felt like it wasn't necessary. That
yeah.
What was done, and that he wasn't going to be coming back from that. So.
Or once again, as we've discussed with Yoda, maybe he felt like it was not his place to.
Right.
That was not his fight to win. Maybe.
Yeah.
So.
But it was very tragic.
Yes, this, like I said, this movie has lots of tragedy and lots of pain and suffering through it. And something we haven't discussed yet is Natalie Portman in this movie. Mm-hmm. I just kind of want to throw that out there, as she was kind of relegated to the background for a lot of this. I mean, she is pregnant in it, but it's just she's very in a lot of the other stuff a lot in Episode 2 and Episode 1, and then in this she's just kind of there as the crutch to Anakin of why he turns. And
she is the reason he turned. I mean, she is the sole reason. That was his, like I said, he's a flawed character anyway, But his main obsession and the reason why he turned the way he did is because he wanted to find a way to beat death.
So I kind of want to say something to that now, but I'm going to save that for a surprise thing we're doing at the end of this for that discussion. So I guess just put a pin in the discussion on why he turned to the dark side for now. I thought it was very interesting to have the Wookiees involved in this. I know we're kind of jumping back now, but I thought it was kind of interesting to show Kashyyyk and to also have the Wookiees involved. And I kind of want to tip my hat real quick to the fact that allegedly Han Solo was supposed to appear as a child in this, and they did not do it. And I'm kind of actually happy about that. I don't know why. I mean, I have nothing against Han Solo. It's just I felt like it would have been
It'd be blatant fan pandering.
Thank you.
Definitely would.
I feel like...
Isn't that what Rogue One is?
Putting Chewbacca.
Oh no, that's 7. 7 was the one that was blatant.
Well, we'll discuss that when we will discuss
Yeah,
that when we get to those episodes.
Chewbacca was like a pretty strong
7.
fan pandering as it was. They would have thrown Han Solo in there. And also the Millennium Falcon, you can see.
Oh yes, you can see when they are arriving back after they crash the Separatist shuttle. You can see the Millennium Falcon like ship landing. I don't know if it's 100. I mean it's a mass produced ship. It's just
if you watch it, you definitely see it, and you're like, oh, it's a Millennium Falcon.
Yes. So that was definitely a nice little nod there. They had some of the mouse droids in it at one point, which is another fan nod.
Can we talk about the babies?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, this is coming in out of left field. Yes, the babies are fan pandering as well.
I mean, what was the point of having them in the end of the movie?
Dun dun.
I love this little tidbit. So, you know the babies.
Okay.
Luke and Leia, right? Okay. For a few of the little clips, the babies were actually animatronic puppets.
Weird.
And Obi-Wan is holding them, so he got to control them. I love this. If somebody doesn't know this one already, it's super awesome. So a lot of the cast jokingly referred to it as Foamy-Wan Kenobi. I love it.
Foamy-Wan Kenobi, referring to the
puppet.
Ugh. It's kind of weird.
That Ewan McGregor was holding. Yes, that's what a lot of the cast members called it by that. So I think it's kind of fun.
Interest. Actually, since we're on kind of the end of the movie, we're jumping around with this open discussion right now. So since we're at the end of the movie, I thought it was a nice little tidbit. The Yoda goes into self-imposed exile as well as Kenobi.
Correct.
But it is mentioned the whole. I thought it was kind of a weird little nudge there about his previous master. Understanding. Discovering a way to immortality, essentially becoming a Force ghost. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's what he goes off to train to do. I don't know. I felt like it was needed. It just felt like a weird... Did anyone else feel that way about it? That it was just kind of a weird segment to be like, oh, by the way, I've been talking to your old master.
I guess.
It didn't... I felt like it doesn't need to not be in there. It just felt like a weird change of pace all of a sudden.
I gotcha.
So...
I kind of like, too, in the final battle, I forgot to mention this earlier, that their lightsabers are the same color.
Yes. That is actually really cool.
That's actually something I noticed today while watching, and it's like, oh, they're the same color.
Yeah.
Usually there's...
And I feel like that's them
one.
bringing back from a point of view, because both of them feel like they're right.
Yes, that is...
You know what I'm saying?
Anakin's thinking he's building his peaceful world because, he brought peace to the galaxy, which... Right. I mean, here's the thing, not to side on the realm of tyranny and an empire,
right.
But he's not wrong.
Right.
And Kenobi wanting to bring back the Republic and justice and bring, who caused all this to justice, he isn't wrong either. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, the empire is an opposing, dictatorship that, sweeps through the galaxy, but
right.
Technically, it does bring about a time of peace, technically. Quote unquote.
Now, with what I said earlier,
I'm not siding with the Empire people. I'm not.
No, I
Hashtag rebel for life.
Stones.
But like what I was saying earlier, though, is the Jedi make some bad decisions, so you can kind of see where Anakin's mind frame is during the fight.
That if you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Well, that and like he's fighting against someone that kind of asked him to betray a friend.
True. And someone that he looked to as a father figure.
Yeah.
Also, when I mentioned the fight with Dooku, let's not forget, like, at the very beginning of this movie, it basically starts off with Anakin being a war hero.
Yeah.
He
For
saves
murdering
Palpatine.
somebody.
Well, he saves Palpatine, who at this point is important, and he kills Dooku.
All on his own because Kenobi was out of commission during that time.
And then after that...
And
they're like,
piloted the ship back down
Well,
that
yeah,
was breaking apart.
they have to throw that down everybody's throats too. How many times Anakin has saved Obi-Wan's butt?
Which we don't, what is it, 9 times?
think
No, he says 10 and then he goes, no, 9.
I don't count.
The
Yeah.
thing that happened on something that was probably
Right.
covered in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
So, at the beginning of this movie, Anakin's kind of...
Riding a high horse.
Yeah. So, and then, like, everything kind of turns crappy for him really quick. Also, I love Samuel L. Jackson as an actor. I'm not a big fan of Mace Windu's character.
I'm not either.
I always
Wow.
thought, like, he's just
Yeah.
kind of a dick.
Whoa!
Well, I mean, like, he talks down to...
Sound effect.
He talks down to Anakin in a lot of scenes where you can kind of like, yeah, I'd cut that guy's hand off, too.
All right, so important question right now since we're discussing it. Did Mace Windu legitimately win the fight
No.
with Sidious, or did Sidious allow himself to appear to be beaten to turn Anakin?
I think Sidious planned
Yeah.
everything out. In fact, we were talking earlier about the visions. I can definitely see where Ellie was coming from, but my thought is Sidious gave Anakin the visions.
So you think
And-
he's that powerful of a manipulator?
Yeah, he fooled everyone in that movie, and I just
For years, by
I
the
think-
way.
Yeah,
like-
long time.
he needed a moment for Anakin to have that final turning point. I think he probably could have crushed Mace Windu.
Well, he was setting up Anakin for that desperation. You know, he's kept taunting him, saying, if
Saying,
you let
"I'm
him
the-
kill me,
me."
then there's no way you're going to figure out how to...
And what's the first thing he says once he's given the upper hand? Sidious says once he's given the upper hand in that fight.
No.
No. He yells, and I'm not going to do the impression this time.
Oh.
Unlimited power.
Yes.
Which basically, he's kind of... Who can oppose him now? Really?
Yeah, he kind of puts the Jedis in the same light as him, like...
Yeah. I didn't weigh in on whether I thought he won that fight fair and square. I think Mace Windu is a very skilled Jedi,
Yes, I agree.
even though we don't get to see much from him in the movies, per
Right.
se. And once again, R.I.P. Kid Fisto. He did take out several Jedis pretty effortlessly, and I think it was if Sidious was planning this, he did leave the right person alive for that situation. He took out the Jedis that he's like, oh, well, I don't need these people, and I need Mace Windu to be the one that Anakin comes here and sees me fighting. Because that's the one that Anakin harbors some resentment towards, that Anakin, might be distrusting of. So, yes, I do think that, once again, we are proving that he is a great manipulator of the Jedi and of, everything that's happened in the prequels. So yeah, just real quick, I know that we haven't mentioned it that much. Grievous fight, anybody for the Grievous fight?
I mean, it's
not that long. It's
Right.
really not.
if there isn't some action,
I like the animal he's
it's
riding.
good to see, like, action in places other than the ending.
Sorry, you like the loudest possible means of transportation in the Star.
It's
That thing is like
awesome.
calling out. I'm like, how's that thing stealthy at all? It's like, like every other second.
I want one.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I kind of like that fight. It was, as Rob said, a good breakup point.
Yeah.
It was at a good point.
I like the way he threw down the the gun and was like uncivilized or something.
So uncivilized.
Yes.
I just like that fight because it was an interesting point where someone that was not force sensitive was using lightsabers, and it kind of showed how skilled Obi-Wan is.
Right.
I mean, even if you're not skilled with the lightsaber, that was technically 4v1.
Right.
And he was able to pretty well disarm Grievous. Literally disarm Grievous, because he did chop off a few of his hands.
Right.
So, I mean,
and it was cool looking.
Yeah, it was a nice fight to be in there, but of course, I think it's overlooked because there are other fights in that movie that
going on,
that overshadow it drastically. So, I guess our final thoughts on episode 3. Oh wait, you got some more, Rob?
One more thing that we can't avoid on light open discussion.
You done, Ellie, for open discussion?
Okay, just a quick thing.
Okay, well, I was about to say Rob's going. I just wanted to make sure I didn't call out.
Yeah, I just have one thing.
All right, cool. Go, Rob.
All right, so we've all been kind of waiting to do this. Let's just point out some things in the movie that don't really work.
Point out some things.
We all have agreed we love this movie.
All right. So now's the
let's point out.
Now's the time that we have the higher ground.
Let's point out the no's of this movie.
There's multiple. Yes. All right. So Vader's no at the end, kind of weird.
That's so sad, though.
I
mean, once
I see where
again,
you're
he gets like one more like jab. Hey, you killed.
But it was
the reason you did all this. Yeah, you killed her.
But it was Palpatine, I think, confirming, I am your master now. Mm-hmm. You have nothing left but me. I am the only thing you have.
Right.
Now. So that, I think, was kind of a big... This is how Vader becomes the subservient lackey of the Emperor. So that's, I think, an interesting thing with that. All right, so we have the higher ground now, so let's not underestimate somebody's power. Continue.
Well, here's one thing. So Anakin and Padme have to keep their marriage and pregnancy a secret. So Padme's like hella pregnant by the end of the movie. No one ever asks her like who the father is or how she
Obi-Wan
got pregnant.
does. Yeah. Well, Obi-Wan doesn't ask. He just kind of says Anakin's the father.
Right.
After she's like
super
20 minutes away from giving birth, he's like, Anakin's the father, isn't he? Like, no one thought to ask her.
Well, that does lend credence to the whole fan joke of watching the movie, and it's actually the love story is actually between Obi-Wan and Padme.
Yeah. I'm going off to fight Anakin. Oh, he's the father, isn't he? I thought it was me this whole time. You lied.
So there's the fun fan poke for the day. Ellie, you have...
I just thought it was interesting that originally this movie was going to be 4 hours.
As this podcast might be.
I was like, can you imagine?
I don't know. I felt like this movie moves along at a very brisk pace after a certain point.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying originally it was going to be...
Okay, as opposed to our previous discussion with episode 2 where that movie felt like it dragged.
Yes.
This one felt like it just kind of... There's a certain point and it just feels like all of a sudden there's this dead sprint and you are all of a sudden at the end of the movie like, whoa, how do we get here?
Right.
And I like that about the movie. I think it did a great job with that. So I don't know where they could have added to it.
They could have added in the other 8 months Padme was pregnant.
Oh, God, no.
There you go. So just before we end this, I know that there will be some criticism if we do not talk about it more. For 66 real quick. And the Jedi that we're getting offed. I mean, it's assumed that there's a lot more, but like Plo Koon getting offed in his... Like, there's a lot of them that, I mean, they go down pretty quickly. And there's, of course...
Oh, and seeing Yoda when he, like
feels it.
Yeah, that was sad.
But that's the thing. So could the Jedis not sense that this was happening? I think some of them kind of did because...
Mace Windu even has a line about, like, he senses...
I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi.
Yeah. So, like, this wasn't out of left field, but...
I don't think... See, here's the thing. They've been at war for several years with these clone troopers. They didn't think that there was any way these troopers would turn on them. And, I mean, there's probably some EU stuff and some canon stuff that explains that better, which we might touch on in another episode. But
Right.
I mean, seeing some of these characters, I mean, that you probably have gotten to know through the EU and through the canon stuff being killed off was, I mean, heart-wrenching for you to see, these Jedis being killed left and right. I mean, yeah, I think everyone in the theater was Yoda at that point. Everyone was feeling, everyone in the theater, everyone who watches this.
It was a hard scene to watch.
And then to follow that up with the Master Skywalker, what do we do?
That was so awful. Seriously, I don't like that whole part of it. It's necessary, but I don't like it.
It's truly showing how far he's turned.
Yeah, exactly. How far he's willing to go. Yes.
He's willing to kill all these people to technically save one person. So the needs of the many do not outweigh the needs of the few in this situation.
Most definitely.
All right, so final thoughts on episode 3.
Okay, so episode 3, it has some moments of poor dialogue and questionable acting. A little heavy on the special effects, but it is Star Wars. All in all, though, I think I've never tried to rank the movies best to worst or worst to best, but I do think Revenge of the Sith is one of the better Star Wars movies, and for the prequel trilogy we got, like, it definitely ended on a high note for movies, low point for where the characters in the series were. Great way to end the prequel trilogy and bring in the movies we love.
Ellie?
I did like it, and I have some issues with, kind of what we talked about. Padme's kind of in the back burner. I felt like
After being such a strong female
Yes.
character,
in
she's
the
kind
other
of,
movies, yeah.
oh, I'm pregnant and
I
not
felt
in
like
anything.
the dialogue between her and Anakin were so forced. It just felt like they forced those scenes in there just to remind you of their undying love,
Their undying love.
so that when the end happens, it makes it more heart wrenching. And I guess like we said before, to kind of set up the fact that she more than likely died of a broken heart. So without that stuff, I just wish that either those scenes were a little bit better done, or maybe just pretty much cut out entirely. But for the most part, I liked the movie a lot. It was definitely very emotional, and a lot of struggle and heartache. So it was pretty good. Plus, it was a nice mix of getting the point across with the story, and then some really good fight scenes as well.
Well, I'm in agreement with both of you on this. I went last, and I don't know how much more I can contribute that would be different from you guys. As Rob said, he doesn't like ranking the movies, and I don't think I could do it.
I never have ranked them,
Well,
but-
yeah, and I don't think I could either, technically. I mean, yes, I did say that in the previous one, episode 2 is probably my least favorite. This would be my most favorite out of the prequel trilogies, easily.
Right,
I think it
yeah.
had a great story. I think it redeemed a lot of stuff from that might have missed the mark on the I'm not saying got wrong, but may have missed the mark in previous prequels. Previous stuff from the prequel trilogy. I have to specify prequel trilogy because since we have Rogue One now, that is technically a prequel. But for the prequel trilogy, I think that this was a nice cherry on top to it. It was a nice send off. It set up a lot of stuff. It did, like I said, I think it portrayed the biggest thing in this movie was failure and loss. Were the biggest things to plunge a galaxy into hopelessness and
Manipulation.
and manipulation, to plunge a galaxy into hopelessness and despair that opens the door for New Hope to actually have such a great and more meaningful impact as both a movie, a title, and as a continuation to the story. But we will, of course, talk about Rogue One and the EU before that. So the surprise that I had mentioned at some point earlier, and we are running long on this, so I know that this Star Wars discussion has been fun, and this one is obviously one that we all enjoyed. But we are coming to the end of our prequel trilogy discussion. This is, of course, the last prequel. this is of course the last prequel in the trilogy. So why don't we take a moment to sort of have a quick look back on the prequels as a whole? If we had to take them as a whole chunk, what is our opinion on them?
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
I'll go first if you want.
All right, fine. I'll go first.
You always want to go last. That's not.
All right, fine. I'll go first on this one. All right. So I mentioned earlier the thing about, I think it was during when I was discussing Vader, about his, what turned him to the dark side, or, that he wanted more power to save his wife and to save his child. I'm going to kind of jump ahead real quick into the original trilogy. And I always had an assumption, because I don't think this would be right to discuss in the original trilogy, but it is mentioned, why he became who he was by Obi-Wan and by other people. I always thought he just went to the dark side because he craved more power. He didn't know he had a family or had kids. It kind of, when it's revealed to him that he does in the original trilogy, I don't think he had any inkling that he did. I just always thought that he turned to the dark side because he craved more power for himself, and it was out of his own selfishness and malice that he went to the dark side. So when the prequels kind of shed a different light on it, I think it's interesting, but it doesn't match up with what, in my mind, I had always envisioned before. So overall, the prequels are, I think, great at times. They definitely do have their really good moments. Do they match up perfectly with what we have canon-wise for the original trilogy with some stuff that has been said and talked about? No. It was mentioned that, and I know this is, I don't want to sit here and beat a dead Jar Jar over any of this, but it was mentioned that, when Obi-Wan met Anakin, he was a great pilot and he was just a kid. We could go on for another hour about all the mess-ups in this, but I just wanted to say that, overall, this wasn't what I had envisioned when I had always thought back on the prequels, but I think it did a great job. When it was good, it was good. So that's kind of my, synopsis of the prequels as a whole.
I guess I'll just do something real quick. As far as the prequels, discussing it now that Rogue One is out, I think that you could have had a new prequel to where you could just put 1 and 2 kind of together, have 3 be the second one, and then Rogue One be the third one. As far as like a new version, I like 1 and 2, but I really do feel like they kind of go over. What's the word? I feel like they take too long to get places in 1 and 2.
Yeah, there is some stuff from our How to Watch Star Wars that kind of, when they said to chop it up certain ways.
Right.
The machete method. Yeah.
I really believe that if you want to still keep it as a prequel, I believe you could have taken 1 and 2, kind of shortened them into 1, and then had 3, episode 3, and then Rogue One as the third movie in the prequel. Now that we have it, but of course before that wouldn't have been an option. But I mean, like I said, overall they're decent. I do like the third one out of the 3 movies.
Actually, something interesting, Ellie, on your thing is there is like cuts done on YouTube where they kind of cut the prequels all together. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're long, but they kind of cut out a lot of the just pointless stuff. So maybe that's something in a possible future discussion we could discuss some of these recuts of it. Yeah. And that might make some people, who've seen it or, who want to streamline the story, that might be a good thing for them. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, that now that Rogue One exists and you could possibly cut up the movie. I don't know. It would be interesting to see sort of a recut. I feel like the hatchet would fall on episode 2 pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And definitely parts of 1. Yeah. I feel like 3
would be pretty untouched, I think.
Yeah, I feel you could touch up it slightly, but not as much as the other ones. All right, Rob.
I think I've really summed it up by saying, like, the third one knocked it out of the park. Of course, like, there's always going to be the nose and, you underestimate my power and you know, some of that. But all in all, like, I was really, really happy with episode 3 when it came out. Still enjoy it. In a way, it kind of, like, saved the prequel trilogy. Like,
I can agree with that.
The first 2 are watchable, but if you've got, like, that third one to really, like, end it hard...
to stick the landing. It sticks the landing.
Yeah, like, it's pretty much the reason why the prequel series is always going to be canon. It ended the prequel trilogy very well.
As our prequel trilogy discussion comes to an end, I think I can say this. I should have said this in my recap. I think Hugh McGregor did an amazing job in these movies.
Definitely.
I mean, a lot of other people did, but I think he seemed like he was having fun through all the movies, and I just think he did an amazing job as Obi-Wan, and I just want to give a quick shout out. I mean,
he is kind of what I think of as Obi-Wan now,
as a young Obi-Wan.
Just like when I hear Obi-Wan, I think Ewan McGregor.
So with that, we're going to end our Star Wars discussion. Just as a quick note for anyone who is tuning in to our May episode, that will be discussing the EU Expanded Universe / Legends canon. So this is stuff that is, at the moment, not considered part of Star Wars canon anymore. That can be the comics, that can be TV shows, possibly, that I will discuss in length. That could be video games, that could be anything that is no longer considered canon anymore within the Star Wars universe. So that will be our next month's discussion, and then after that, we will, of course, do Rogue One, and then following that, we'll proceed to the original trilogy.
Right.
So, definitely, if you want to look forward to that, it should be a lot of fun. And what are some of the best ways to listen to us?
Well, of course, SoundCloud.
iTunes.
You can also find us on Google Play and Stitcher and Tuned In. And you can find us on Facebook.
Zeng This.
You can find us on Twitter.
At Zeng This.
And you can tweet at us. You can also find us on Instagram at Zeng This Podcast. You can find us playing games on twitch.tv/ZengThis. And if you want to contribute to the podcast, you can always go to
www.patreon.com/ZengThis.
You didn't want to do that in your Emperor Palpatine impersonation?
No.
No.
Just no.
And as always, you can email us with your hatred for our impression of Emperor Palpatine or anything else we've done.
It's zingthis@gmail.com.
And as always, DJ Golden Boy.
89.
89. Play us out.
No.
No. Unlimited power.
You're breaking my heart.
I have the higher ground. Nothing?